Hello Bookish Babes and welcome to my book nook. I am filming this while standing up because my little dude has decided he's going to sit in here and eat blueberries with me, and so we're just going to film this intro right here. If you don't know me, I'm Rainy. I love to talk about books. I also teach elementary music and middle school musical theater during my day job, and I have a cute little 2.5-year-old son, and that is me, and we're going to talk about books all on this channel. In today's video, I am tier ranking all of the books that I read in 2021. Now, I only read 26 books. And at first I was like, wow, that's not a lot of books. You shouldn't do this video. However, I read 20 of those books in November and December. I had only read 6 books until November, and then I decided I wanted to start reading again and start a booktube channel, and I read 20 books in 2 months, and I think that's pretty impressive, so that's why I'm still doing this tier ranking video. But I'm super excited for next year because my goal is 100, and so I'll have way more books to rank, but since I only did 26, I could spend more time talking about each one in this ranking video, and so I still think it's super awesome. I will say a disclaimer, I did not necessarily rank this as like 1 star to 5 star. I ranked this according on my feelings on the matter, as you'll see by the category titles that I gave, which I quite am obsessed with. So anyway, without talking much further, I'm going to make my son stop being so cute, and we're going to go rank some books. Can you say hi?
I got finger.
Oh, okay. That used to be chapstick, which means it's gone. So, let's get to the rankings. I'm going to move myself out of the way because, honestly, I'm going to be in the way no matter where I go. But we'll just stick with here for now. Okay, so the way that I'm doing this, I know I don't have that many books on here. And at first I wasn't going to do it because I've only read 26 books this year. But you know what? I used to read all the time. And then college happened. And I stopped reading. And then it was in November that I really started picking it back up. And so I honestly read from the X-Tex on in November and December. And that's pretty impressive, if I say so myself. So I went from only having read like 6 books to 26. And so I'm going to take that for what it is. And next year, I'm going to read way more than that. So how I'm going to tier rank these is by going with these 5 categories. We have, it was a moment, as in, it was fabulous. It was beautiful. I wish I could live in it forever. It was just a moment. You know what I mean when I say it was a moment. Those are like God tier, amazing favorites. Then we have Let's Go on a Second Date, which is, I absolutely loved this. It wasn't quite the moment, but it was still really fabulous. Like, I would read this author again. I would read more from the series. Like, it was quite fabulous. Then we have not besties, but more than acquaintances. So it wasn't like a best friend book, but it wasn't like just an acquaintance book. It was a solid book. Like, let's meet in the middle here. And then we have IDK Babe. I don't know about that. I would have to really reassess things before reading from that author again. I don't know. Like, IDK Babe, IDK. And then, why did I read this? It is absolute trash, garbage. No, don't read it. It's not good. Now, I will say, this does not necessarily align with like my 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 stars. Because, for example, we're going to get to My Heart is a Chainsaw and my many opinions on that. I'm thinking, why did I read this? Even though I gave it a 2 star out of courtesy for Stephen Graham Jones. But it really belongs in my, why did I read this thing? So it's not going to necessarily align with like my 1 through 5 stars because my feelings on it might be slightly different than like the ranking, if that makes sense. But let's dial it back and let's get started. With the first book I read this year, Where the Crawdads Sing. Honestly, I really enjoyed this book. I know a lot of people like give shame for it, but I liked it. And so, you know, I would go on a second date with this author. And so we're going to move him, or we're going to move her here. I would go on a second date. I will say I've heard some shady things since then about the author. And I just don't know what to make of it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can look it up on the news. But you know what? Like, the book is the book. And I thought it was pretty good. So that's where we're at. Then we have the X Talk. And I might have to put that... I was going to put it in IDK Babe, but I did actually kind of enjoy it. I would probably put it in the not besties, but more than acquaintances. The only reason I didn't absolutely love this book, which a lot of people love, is because the ending just wasn't for me. It wasn't very much, it was kind of like, it was going for good for her energy, but it kind of just like didn't do that. It kind of just went the opposite direction and like let the man take over for her, and like she doesn't need that. And I didn't like the ending. So that's where we lie with that. Then we're going to go to Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. This is my first Lisa Jewell novel I've ever read. I absolutely loved it. It was iconic. It was the moment. It was the moment. Then we're going to move on to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. this is my top book of the year. Like, my top book. I loved this book so much. I wanted to read it at every stop sign. Of course, I didn't do that, but I wanted to read it all the time. It's been on my mind ever since. I love this. It's like the best book ever and ever and ever, and the hype is not real enough for this book. So that goes, and it was a moment. It was more than a moment. It was like my lifetime. I just loved it so much. And then we have The Silent Patient, which was also a moment. This is my second favorite book of the year. Oh my gosh, I loved that book. Like, it was going, and I was like, okay, I don't know where it's going to go from here. And then the twist happened, and you're like, holy crap, how, why, what, where, when, all the things. It was just, I don't have words. Like, if you've read it and you didn't love it, we got to talk, because I'm just confused. Why did you not like it? It was everything. Iconic. Anyway, I digress. Let's keep going. Then we have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, who is another one of my favorite authors. And for this one, I would put this on Let's Go on a Second Date, because I did love this book. I didn't love it as much as The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but this one was just missing a little bit for me. Like, I liked the story and how one of the husbands of Evelyn Hugo, like, it was centered on his rock star life and like his kids and like this party, but I don't know, there was just like a couple of things that was missing from it for me, but it wasn't like just good, it was still really good, so I would put it in that Let's Go on a Second Date category. Then let's go with the very disappointing read of The Ex-Hex. I'm gonna put that in IDK, babe, because IDK, it just was not what I was expecting. I was expecting like this really great witchy rom-com, and it kind of just felt lackluster for me, and it wasn't exactly the greatest, and the ending was just kind of meh. I feel like it was very rushed at the end, and they needed like at least 50 to 100 more pages to really like, I guess, get into effect what they were trying to go for, so it's an IDK babe moment from here. Okay, then we have Drawn to You by my friend Ren Montgomery, and that was absolutely fabulous. It was a moment. So that one is about a girl that is a stalker that is also being stalked by someone, and it was like very dramatic, lots of cliffhangers. The ending alone, I was like, holy crap, why did you do this? It's just like, you want to root for the main character the entire time, and the main character is like crazy because she's a stalker, and so like she does stalker things, and then you're like, come on, Ruby, get it together. Anyway, it was fabulous, and I would definitely read from them again, and I am reading from them again in January. I'm reading their book Haunt. I was going to read it in December, but you know what? Life goes on, and so life goes on. Okay, then let's get to The Maidens, Alex Michaelides' other book. I did not love this as much. Now, I gave it a 4-star because I love the writing, and I love Alex Michaelides. However, I'm going to put it in the IDK babe section, because that ending was just like very put together in a way that I just was not okay with. It didn't make sense. I didn't understand. It was not logical. Like, you're reading it and you go, no, why did you do that? Why? Just why? Like, no. And so, I don't know, dude. I don't know. This was not, no. Like, I still loved it, but no. And that's that on that. If you've read it, you know. Okay, let's move on to The Kiss Quotient. I read this. It's the first one in a series of 3. She also has The Bride Test and The Heart Principle, which I own, and I'm going to be reading those soon. And I really loved this. This was absolutely cute. I really, really, really loved this. I would go on a second date with this book. I thought it was adorable. I gave it a 4.5 stars. I just didn't give it a 5-star because I can't remember why. I think it dragged a little on for me at points, and I think it was a little long. But I thought it was adorable. It was the perfect cute little romance. I would read that again. So it was good. It was a good, enjoyable, quality romance read. Then let's go to Such a Quiet Place by Megan Miranda. It's one of the first domestic mysteries I read for the year. And I would put this in the not besties but more than acquaintances section because it was good. I gave it a 3.5 stars, I believe. But it really dragged on. Like, I was really bored up until like the 260 page mark. And I was ready to DNF it at like 70%. And then the last bit like was good. But like, I don't know. I didn't really like the whole, I guess, reveal. So it's about a girl that was sent to jail for murdering these 2 people, and then she gets put out on bail or like released or something because like they realize they messed up or something. And so then it's like, who's the real killer in our midst, because someone else shows up dead, and so it just turns into this whole thing. And I just don't know. It was just a very lackluster book from start to finish, but like, it was still a solid domestic mystery. Like, I think it's really good for people that haven't really read mysteries before. And for that reason alone, I would put it in the not besties but more than acquaintances section. Let's go with the first one that's going in the Why Did I Read This? It is trash. And that is Nothing But Blackened Teeth. That was awful. Awful and awful. It was 120 pages about a group of friends going to have a mansion, or going to have a wedding in a haunted mansion in Japan, and this ghost bride being there to, like, spook the place up. But it was, like, 80 pages of them just bitching and fighting with one another, being like, I hate you, I love you, you should be with me, why are you with this person, yada da 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 da, literally, like, schoolgirls fighting, catty drama, and then, like, 20 pages of, like, Japanese horror, but not even, and then, like, a resolution that was just subpar at best. I hated this book. I'm mad that I paid $20 like for this little mini hardcover of it. I hated it. I don't want to read it again. Never, ever, 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 ever again. Then let's talk about another iconic It Was a Moment. And it's the first Colleen Hoover book that I read, and it is It Ends With Us. I loved this book. I absolutely loved everything about it. Atlas is like the vibe for guy characters in a book. He is just like, I want to cuddle him and love him forever and just hold him near and dear to my heart. I loved him. I am basically like, he's my favorite guy character I've read about so far this year. He was just like everything you want in a guy. And then you have Ryle, which I hated that name. I absolutely hated the name. I thought it was a stupid name. I did not like the name Ryle. But the book is fabulous. I will say trigger warning for like mentions of suicide, for physical abuse, mental abuse, alcoholism. So if that's not like for you, don't read it. But I will definitely be reading more Colleen Hoover. And I'm so glad this was my first one because I loved it so much. Okay, then we're going to go with my first set of short stories that I read, and I solely read this because Noelle Gallagher told me to, and so I do what she says because I love her so much, and it was The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, and I would put this in the Not Besties But More Than Acquaintances section because it was good, and some of the stories were better than others. Like the short story Peach Cobbler was probably my favorite one of all time, but it was just kind of in other ones. I will say it's very empowering stories about a bunch of Black godly women like leading their lives through adversity and trials and tribulations and whatnot, and I really did enjoy it for what it is. I'm just not sure if short stories are really my thing or not. I'm willing to give it a couple more tries, but like this was just kind of middle of the road for me. Let's go to the beginning of a new series that I'm so excited about, and the second one comes out in February, and I cannot wait, and it's Finley Donovan is killing it. This was also a moment. I loved this. I loved this book so much. It was just a fun, cozy mystery that had a lot of, like, humorous moments. It was super funny. I loved the dynamic duo between Finley and the babysitter, whose name I am blanking on right now. But I just loved their, like, dynamic energy. And so if you've never read this, I would definitely recommend it. It's just about a girl that, Finley Donovan, who writes murder mysteries, and this person overhears her talking to her agent at Panera and assumes that she is actually an assassin and like wants to hire her to kill her husband. And so it just gets crazy from there. It's very great. I mean, I can't even talk. It's fabulous. It's fabulous. Go read it. Then let's talk about the first Grady Hendrix book that I read, and that would be The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. And I loved this. I don't know how to categorize this though, because this was also one of those books that's like, I don't know about the ending. I'm going to put it in the Not Besties But More Than Acquaintances one. That's where it's going to lie. Even though I gave it 4.5 stars. Because I want to change my rating to 4 and maybe even 3.5 because the more I talked to my mom about it, because she read it right after me because she wanted to borrow it from me, we just started noticing all these inconsistencies between, like, things that happened at the end and, like, what logically or realistically could happen compared to what happened. And, like, not saying that, like, books have to be realistic or whatnot, but just if you take it for what it is, it didn't all add up. I still loved it. I loved the whole idea of it, of like final girls being picked off one by one in a support group and like them having to like try and figure out who the murderer is before they all get murdered. Loved it. I still thought it was great. I can't wait to read more from Grady Hendrix, but because of all the inconsistencies and stuff, I just have to put it in like the it was okay range. Talk about a book that I read solely because it was on the Horror Goodreads Top 20 list, and I thought it was pretty good. I would put it on Let's Go on a Second Date, and that is When the Reckoning Comes by Tanya McQueen. Now, I did give it a 3-star because I just kind of feel like it kept building and building and building, and then the end, like, with kind of a letdown. Like, it didn't go where I wanted it to go. It didn't go where I wanted it to go, but I still really enjoyed it, and I really loved what it was trying to do. And for a debut novel, I thought it was pretty interesting. I would definitely read from her again, and so I'm definitely going to continue to read from this author, because like I said, the writing was beautiful, and I really, really did enjoy it until, like, the last 20%, and then it just kind of, like, went downhill, and, like, I didn't really understand what was going on, but it was still a very solid read for me. Into the last couple of the year, let's start with a book that I finished in like a day. I thought it was fabulous. It was the moment I was looking for, and it is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Now, yes, I know, it is just basically a retelling of Agatha Christie's, oh my gosh, what book is it? You know the book I'm talking about. And Then There Were None, I think, by Agatha Christie. I don't even care. I loved this book. I just thought it was great. The whole, like, wedding on an isolated island, and then all these people, like, a murder, and then, like, someone's at fault, but who is it? And switching back between the different timelines and the characters and all the things. I was just living for it. And the twist, and how she interconnected everybody and everything together was like, OMG. And yes, I talk with my hands a lot, but I loved this. I loved it. 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 So that's where it's gonna go. We're going to go with another one that was a moment. Like, man, I am just having so many that were the moment. And it was Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. And yes, I know, a lot of people don't like Alice Feeney, and they don't like this book. But you know what? I really loved it. Yes, I just did. I don't know. It was just doing it for me. And it's one of those books that, like, you're reading it, and then all of a sudden halfway through you go, oh my God, that's what's been going on. It was like one of those kind of twists, and then another twist, and another twist. And I was living for it. It's about a husband and wife that their marriage is, like, falling on the brink of despair. So they go to, like, have a wedding, I guess, anniversary in, like, an abandoned castle, I think in Scotland. I can't remember. Or Nova Scotia. I can't remember where. But the thing that I really liked is that the wife would write letters every year for their anniversary, and it basically tells you, like, where they're at. And then, of course, as it gets closer to the 10-year one, it gets crazier and crazier. And then you're like, oh my God! Anyway, I loved it. It was iconic. I can't wait to read more from her. This is just what I wanted. Okay, then we're going to get to some books that I read for a vlog, and we're going to start with The One by John Mars, and I would definitely put that in the Let's Go on a Second Date category, because it was 5 stars, and I absolutely loved it, but it was not, like, a moment. Like, it's not a book that I would, like, shout from the rooftops, like, or put in my favorites, like these other ones, but I definitely would read from John Mars again, and I plan on it for that vlog. I'm going to be reading The Passengers next, which I heard is also a really good one. And so I definitely loved it. It's about, like, being able to find your soulmate through DNA tests, and I thought it was great. So I would definitely read from this author again, and I shall. Then we're going to get to Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. I also really enjoyed that book. I would probably also put that on Let's Go on a Second Date. I loved it more than The One. The thing that I loved about this was the fact that, like, this could really happen to someone in real life. Like, someone's husband really could be that crazy and, like, doing these things behind closed doors, and you never know from your neighbor. And I don't know. I just loved it, but that was also, like, scary because it's, like, very realistic. It was just a perfect, like, thriller book. I cannot wait to read more from her. And so that also is going to stay in that category. Go to The Other People by C.J. Tudor. And I did enjoy this book, but I would have to put it in the Not Besties. Oops, not there. In the Not Besties but More Than Acquaintances one, because there was just some stuff about it that I wasn't too excited about. Like, the ending was just kind of meh for me. The writing was okay, but I don't know. There was just a little bit of, like, lackluster for me in it. I wouldn't put it in the IDK Babes section because, like, I definitely liked it. I think it was just solid for me. It was just solid. I would still recommend it to others. Then we're going to get to another book that is Why Did I Read This? And this is My Heart is a Chainsaw. I am so disappointed, fam. So disappointed that I did not like this book. Like, I don't know if I could be more disappointed that I didn't love a book, but I didn't love this book. Like, I hated it. And I only gave it 2 stars because of Stephen Graham Jones. And I still kind of want to read All the Good Indians or whatever the Indians book is that he wrote, even though I'm kind of afraid that I'm going to hate it because I hated this so much. And I'm sad. And I didn't DNF it because I paid $25 for it. But you know what? I wish I had DNF'd it because it was a waste of my time. A waste of my time. But we're not going to talk about this book anymore. Then let's talk about The Hating Game, which I read specifically so I could watch the movie. And I wish that I had put 2 pictures on here so that I could put the movie and that, because the movie was a moment. The movie was a moment. The book was Let's Go on a Second Date. It wasn't in, like, the iconic realm. I still absolutely loved it. That movie was just so cute, though. The movie was a moment. It really was. Like, I would watch that again right now. But the book was fabulous. I still absolutely loved it. I thought it was 5 stars. I'm ready to read more from Sally Thorne. I know she has 2 other novels, so I'm excited for that. It was just a cute little, like, enemies to lovers rom-com. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I don't necessarily give a lot of romances 5 stars. I mean, it has to, like, really be, like, phenomenal and, like, shout from the rooftops, because romance is just not, like, my favorite genre. I mean, it ends with us, though, with, like, very emotional and, like, very good. But anyway, yeah, The Hating Game. Fabulous. Loved it. Chef's kiss. Let's get to the last 2 books on this list. At this current moment, I am 90% done with One Day in December. I did finish A Court of Thorn and Roses. So I added One Day in December because I know what my rating's going to be like. And I'm just going to put that as, honestly, IDK, babe. It was a solid middle-of-the-road book for me, but, like, I don't know. I just didn't really like it. I didn't like the premise of what it was about. It's about a guy and a girl that see each other on a bus stop and, like, basically fall in love at first sight, but they don't see each other again for 12 months. And then her best friend ends up introducing her to him as her boyfriend. And so it's 10 years of them pining after each other and, like, trying to be with each other, even though, like, they can't be because he's with the best friend still and she's with other people. And so, like, it's just, I don't like tropes where it's, like, cheating, essentially, and other things like that. And I don't know, it just was, like, very, like, plus it was long. It was really long for a book that didn't have to be that long. Like, I felt like it needed to be, like, 150 pages shorter, and it just was what it was. It was not, like, my favorite thing ever. I don't know. Will I read from her again? I don't know. And then let's end with a very polarizing book and option, A Court of Thorns and Roses. And I'm gonna say, for this first book, I will put it in the Let's Go on a Second Date one. None has entered the room, so if you hear him, you hear him. I'm going to put it under Let's Go on a Second Date because I did enjoy this book, but it took me a while to get through because the first 50% was kind of boring and I didn't really know if I was going to go for it with the whole fairies and high fae, and I'm still kind of confused as to, like, what all everything is and stuff. But the more I got into it, and of course, once Rysand or Rysand, I'm probably saying it wrong, came into the picture, I was like, okay, let's stick with it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to actually read the rest of the series. I have books 2 and 3 because my sister let me borrow the first 3. And so I would definitely go on a second date with this. I also just bought Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass series, and so I'm super excited to see where that takes us. But as you can see, this is my tier ranking for my books for 2021. I can't wait until next year when I have, like, over 100 books to add to this list, and then I'm going to have to be really short and quick with how I rank these. But this is where we got for this year. And that was my tier ranking of all of the 26 books that I read in 2021. If you liked that video, make sure to like, subscribe, share, stick around. We are going to have a lot of exciting videos coming in January, which I'm super excited about, including a couple of series that I cannot wait to read. Like, the one I am most excited is that I am doing the Greenbone Saga read-along along with Mel reads, and so I just got my Jade City copy, and I'm so excited for that. But be excited, we have some secrets coming your way because I can't share everything I'm going to be reading, and I'm starting a new TBR method. Just everything's going to be better in January. So thanks for sticking around, and I'll see all you guys in my next video. Bye!